David Edward and Rita Desnoyers discuss Rita's book, The Self-Compassion Project.
Rita, how are you?
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, Rita, you and I were just talking, and you're a multi-leveled, credentialed author and coach, and you have graduate degrees and all kinds of stuff. But we don't have room to talk about everything that you do. So we wanted to talk specifically about the book that you put out, right?
Yes, I would love to talk about that.
And what's it called?
It's called The Self-Compassion Project.
Self-Compassion Project. It sounds like a
Yes.
pretty interesting book. So let's talk a little bit about what was going on that brought this book into existence, and what was the process you kind of went through when you decided you were going to write it, and then how did you start writing it? What did that look like?
Okay. So to go way back, I was a person with no self-compassion. Like I just didn't have it. Very hardworking. If I was told things weren't working, then I would work even harder. That was just sort of how I was raised. And I think a lot of people are raised that way, to tell you the truth. So one day when I just hit my rocky bottom, I hired a coach to work with me. And one of the first questions he asked me was, can you be really kind and gentle with yourself right now? And my first thought was, what? What is that going to do for me? This doesn't sound productive. I don't know about this. I've never heard this before. I have like a freaking master's degree in social work, and I've never considered being compassionate or kind or gentle with myself. And then the other part of me, which I think was the part that really needed to hear that question, completely surrendered to it. And I just started crying. I sobbed. I really sobbed. I think I was letting go of all of this stuff that I had in my head. And when I surrendered to that question, I realized I was no longer a terrible mother. I was no longer a failure as a businesswoman. I was no longer a terrible wife or sister or whatever, all those things in my head. I was just being kind and gentle with myself because I existed as a human being. Because I'm there. And that got me really curious about this thing called self-compassion, what it is, and how it's changed my life so much from then. But I didn't know that at the time, obviously, but it just got me curious about all of that idea of giving yourself a break just a little bit, just for 1 second, and see what happens.
Interesting.
And so I worked with him for 4 years. And then maybe a year into our work, maybe even less, I started to notice all of my friends were miserable and I was feeling so much better. So I just invited them. I'm like, look, I'm learning a lot of stuff. Do you want to, let's do something. And so that was my first group. And I started coaching people. And because I have a background in social work, I had a lot of those skills already embedded in me. And then I started writing courses, and because I wanted to be better at self-compassion, I decided I'm going to write a course about it and teach it, because, we teach what we need to learn. And one great way to really know something is to teach it. So I tried out all of these different things, compiled into a course called the Compassion Course. And it was mostly for women. That seemed to be my niche, is women. And we can be very hard on ourselves. I'm not saying men can't be, but women can be hard on ourselves. So I taught it. And after a while, one of my students said, you should really put this like in a book or something, because I took the course and it was great, but I need something that I can like work with, like something that I can bring with me so that I don't need you to whisper in my ear all the time and remind me. And so that was sort of the point where I decided, I think it's time to write a book. I had written I'd written a book before that, a very tiny one, which was also really great. But this was more of what I considered a real book. It was bigger, more pages. Right. It wasn't connected to anything. It was stand on your own type of book. So I decided one way that really worked for me, that had worked with the other book, was I'm going to write every day for 20 minutes minimum, 5 days a week.
Okay.
So, and because I already had a lot of it kind of outlined, it made it a lot easier, right? So I kind of knew how it was going to be structured. It was just like, you just have to write it, and and as you probably know, well, you do different kinds of writing, but when you're writing a how-to book, and if maybe you've had a course, there's so many things you don't think about that you say automatically that you have to put in the book. So it's kind of like writing a cookbook.
Yeah.
In that you have to make sure the recipes are accurate. It's not just, well, just throw a dash of this in and stir it and you'll know when it's ready. It's like, no, you have to be very specific because you don't know what the reader is coming with as they read.
Yeah.
So I did 20 minutes a day. I think I did that for maybe 6 weeks.
Now, for those 20
yeah.
minutes, was there a word count? Would you write longer? And then did you just write from the front to the back, or were you hitting pieces, or how did that work?
Right. For this book, because I already had the course written, which is a huge cheat, I think, I wrote front to back, like maybe not the introduction necessarily or the conclusion, but the meat of it, I wrote from front to back in order. I didn't have a word count. I decided for me to do this, I needed to do it just based on time, but it was 20 minutes minimum.
Yeah.
You have to sit there in front of the computer for at least 20 minutes and write something. Maybe it's one sentence. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what worked for me. I've since been doing other writing where I do it differently, but it really worked.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't work for everybody. So I got the rough draft out in about a month, 6 weeks. And then, of course, the hardest part is the editing and the feedback and the readers coming to you. And that's when, for me, it hits the fan of, can I really do this? Does this make sense? Does this even mean anything? Will people like this?
Well, and you had the extra burden of taking stuff that you talk to. So if you explain it this way or that way, and you can gauge, you're looking at the people, so you can, are they getting it or are they not, or are they asleep, whatever. And here you've got to kind of balance that, right? That getting it all out, but not making it boring, but also making sure you cover everything.
Yes, that was the challenge, was covering all of the things and thinking back to what would this be like for a beginner reader? That's who really those people are, not someone who's taken my course and already knows the recipes and goes, oh, it looks good. So I ended up, because, I'm very, not at a high level of publishing or anything. I gave it to people I knew that never took my book or never took my course.
Right.
But people who are, I thought, in the niche. And they read the book and they really liked it. And one of the biggest feedback things I got was, it's really good. However, it doesn't sound like you because you're funny. So you need to make it funnier, make it sound more like your voice.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm hearing this from a couple different people. So the woman and I, Amy McGlynn, who helped me edit it, we just went on joke writing mode and we just throw in more jokes, throw in more stuff, throw in more
that's hard to do. Yeah.
Which can be hard, but we're both have that background in us. So she's great at it. So it actually took us a lot less time than I thought it was to just infuse it with, hey, we're all in this together. I got your back, and just sort of making it a little lighter because it can go, I think how-to books, especially emotional ones, can go really heavy.
Yeah.
So it was a great way to say, hey, I think self-compassion could work for you. 9 out of 10 doctors recommend, that kind of.
That's it. That's how it
kind
sounds.
Of right. Just bring you in. Come on. We're just this all for shits and giggles. Come on. Okay. You can do it.
So now what is the person who picks this up? What do they get out of it if they actually finish reading it?
Well, that was the thing, is that I didn't want it to be something that they were so proud of getting, feeling really good about themselves, and then putting it on the shelf and never using it.
Right.
So I wanted it to have a beautiful cover, which I think it does. That was a great investment. So it gets you, and there's not too many things on too many pages. So it's very doable because you're just do one page at a time. There's lots of space to write and draw. You can get a journal and do more of that. So it's I want it to be something you take into bed with you with a cup of tea and a box of Kleenex, and you just start reading and you just start loving on yourself right away. Right. So very very feminine in that way.
Right.
But what do they get out of it? I think what they get out of it is an opportunity, if they use it as an opportunity, to get to know themselves on a deeper level, to examine what motivates people. I mean, most of us have no idea what's really motivating us. Our head thinks that, oh, I'm doing it because. But what's really motivating us is way deeper down emotionally. And unless you purposefully kind of look for that and know what questions to ask, you may never get there. And then you don't change any of your behavior or your life, or, you
Right.
wonder why I keep doing it the same way and, trying to get a different result. That's insanity.
Right. Right. Well, so what's been your biggest surprise? I mean, because basically you took your baby, you put it in a baby buggy, and you wheeled it out the door, and now you're
Right.
hoping it's doing good out there, because you can't see the interaction of people with it. So what's been the
Right.
biggest surprise of putting that book out there?
One of the surprises, although it's not a surprise, they're like, wow, that is a beautiful book. And I'm like, I know, right? I love it. That's Heather Kern, the woman who designed the cover. So that was great to hear. I am not the only one who's like, I love this cover.
Yeah.
The other one was who wanted to buy it in bulk. So I was thinking just like women in the store be like, oh, beautiful book, oh, self-compassion. I've always thought of that. And they pick it up. But no, who the people that seem to be coming to me are other coaches and therapists. So one of my biggest super fans, so supportive, is a therapist. And she's like, I need this for all my clients. I need this book. And I think part of it is because it's something that you talk about maybe with clients in therapy, you're being a little hard on yourself, but you could do that every day in therapy and you don't get to a lot of the meat of stuff. So it's a great tool for women to use in between. And then things come up because you're journaling like, oh, I didn't know I was so upset about that. Or, oh, I didn't know that really harkens back to when I was 5. That's a therapist's dream. If someone is doing this in between, right, sessions, there's not just in the room and then they have amnesia until the next time they're in the room. They're actually doing something and applying it and discovering things. And then it's more things that they can explore with their therapist. So that was a big surprise to me, although it makes logical sense now.
Yeah. That is interesting. Well, so I mean, this book is based on, you're very well credentialed in the space. You spend a lot of time doing it. There's a lot of personal experiences involved, and I think it took you about 10 years between the time maybe you started to figure this space out and you actually put it into a book. So what advice might you have for someone who's maybe sitting out there and they're a professional like you, and they're going through something that is life-changing and something they want to be a part of and they want to bring to other people? Maybe they think they have a book in them. Maybe they want to take 10 years to write it. Maybe they want to write it a little quicker. But what advice might you have? And then also another question I didn't ask, I want to I'll ask it the same way, is what was the day like where you actually started writing the book? So I know it's two different, kind of the same, well, not the same, but I missed it. I'm a bad interviewer, so I'll go into interview timeout when this is over. But I want to make sure I get that. So I've confused the heck out of you now. So there you go.
Well, I'll answer the second one first. So the second question was, what was the day like the first day you started writing this? And I would say one of the things, well, first I was excited. I was glad that I had that previous book as a template for, I can write this. It's not a hump of like, can I write a book? Yeah, I did it. How can I make this even better? And then the other thing that I had to keep reminding myself, I know this sounds funny, is have compassion for yourself, Rita, as you write this.
Oh, well, you're right. Yeah. Wow. What a recursive loop you were in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that's my whole coaching business is I learn something that changes my life and I share it. And the reason I want to share it, part of the selfish reason I want to share it is so that I keep doing it. Keeps me off the streets. My clients keep me off the streets and on the keeping me honest.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Forcing me to walk my walk. So that was my first day. And then knowing it was going to be a journey that wasn't going to be like one and done. It was going to be, takes time, which is why self-compassion is so amazing anyway, because when you can have self-compassion, it helps you get through all of the bumps and lumps of life. It's just, without it and a sense of humor, you don't get very far. You just burn out. So needed. And then the second question, or the first question you asked.
The first question I asked, you're answering second. Yes.
What advice would you give to other people who want to do this, a coach or someone who wants to write?
Another professional. Yeah.
I would say, think about something that you have really struggled with and are better at. Maybe you're not an expert at yet, but much better than most of the population, or a problem that your clients have that they keep coming to you about that you know something about. And those make the best books, I think, because you're interested in them So you have the wherewithal to keep going because it's a process. It's a long process.
Yeah.
So you have to have a big why, and it could be for you or your clients that drive you to do this. And then of course you're thinking, how are they going to benefit from it? That keeps you going too. Like, wow, when they have this book, they'll be able to X, Y, and Z, and that would be amazing.
Right.
So I would say that that's part of, what you're doing. Part of what you're doing is you're a presence for them, you're helping them with something, but then this is an amazing tool. A book is an amazing, amazing tool to help them make changes in their lives. So,
I can tell you have a lot of those skill sets, because I know that's actually called self-actualization, right? You basically said, if you want to write it, think of how great it's going to have been to have written it. And that's a trick I use. Now, I am nowhere near as advanced as you are as far as giving myself a break and all that other stuff. But I've learned I've picked up some of the tools. So I find it fascinating that your answers are layered. There's a lot of wisdom and logic. It's like you answered it at one level, and then there's lots below that can really help a person.
I'm all about going deep. But
Okay.
I just want to say one more thing, and I know we need to wrap up soon, but one of the things, so many times we make decisions about things we want, and our mind makes the decision. The ego goes, I want to redo my kitchen because I want a better kitchen, right?
Right.
But then what happens is, because life the life is the way it is, when you redo that kitchen, so many other things happen in that process that you could never have anticipated, that are, when you allow them to be opportunities and permission slips to improve your life. So for instance, writing this book was not just because I want to have a book for my clients, which is a great reason, but it also challenges me to become a better person. It makes me a better person because maybe it challenges me to take feedback better, or maybe it challenges me to spend money on things that I didn't want to spend money on, and then but it's a great cover, or to take the risk of marketing your book. That's like a whole other thing. I mean, writing is one mountain, and then marketing is another mountain. So you grow as a person in ways you could never have anticipated.
It's true. And when, by the time you write a book and put it out there, you're going to be an expert at taking feedback, no matter what you want. Right. So yeah. It comes from all directions and angles.
It humbles you. It humbles you. And you have to go into your vulnerability, but then you come out stronger. And then you're just like, criticism, schmiticism, I can take it. Yeah, I'm okay.
Well, and they're criticizing the book. They're not criticizing you. All that stuff that's hard to learn. I've had so much criticism with my book. I learned that quickly. I'm like, I'm not that bad a guy. The book sucks, but it's okay. So,
and also you have to look at who's giving you criticism. Is it a person who's never written a book?
Yeah.
Because right off the bat, they don't qualify.
No, well, you know what? I get a lot of people who tend to be attracted to my stuff are people like who are writing their first book, and it's going to be so great, and they can't believe the crap that I publish, but theirs is going to kill. And every time I see one of those, I'm always like, okay, great. Okay, more power to you.
Talk to you in a year or so.
Yeah, or 10 years, whenever you finish. Good luck. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. All right, Rita, look, it's a joy talking to you. When your next book comes out, let me know, and we'll have another conversation. Yeah,
would love to. Thank you.
And we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button.